Welcome all. I am Redbeard, joined by my co-host Targo. And in today's all-new episode of Brews and Banter FC, we're looking at some of the top football news from the past week, including Toni Kroos coming back to the German national team, Dani Alves facing a prison time, and is the Kylian Mbappe transfer saga finally over? Was it the right move?
Yeah, we'll see. We also look at some of the top games from around Europe this weekend, including Bayern Munich taking on RB Leipzig, Arsenal hosting Newcastle. Oh, and there was a trophy one, as Chelsea and Liverpool went head-to-head in the Carabao Cup final. All this and so much more on this brand new episode of Brews and Banter FC that starts right now. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. I mean, as Arsenal fans, how could you not after this weekend? So, yeah, I'm doing great. How about you, my friend?
Doing good. Gonna be washing it down with a little beer here I found at the tap room called Starburst IPA from Ecliptic Brewing. It says, pour some space in your face. There's the can.
I have had that one. Let me know how you think it tastes.
A little bitter.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much an IPA, got that hoppy flavor, but it's got a little bitter taste to it that's different. It does say a juicy tropical IPA with a galaxy's worth of, holy crap, there's a ton of hops in this. Amarillo, Azaka, Centennial, Mosaic,
literally
and
a
Simcoe.
galaxy's worth of hops.
Yes, it's all right. I probably would not buy it again, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
A little too hoppy for me.
It's very bitter. Like the more you drink of it, too, the more bitter it gets.
Oh, that's not good. I guess I'd give it a 7. 7 out of 10.
It's being generous.
Yeah. What do you got?
Today, I got a full pint.
Oh.
It took me about 10 minutes to get it all in my cup. So, I have Widmer Brothers Brewing Imperial Hefeweizen.
Imperial Hef, huh?
Didn't know there was such a thing, but instead of it being brewed with just lemons, it's got tropical fruits in it, which I thought was very interesting. I haven't tried it yet, but we'll see. I'm not a fan of their normal Hefeweizen.
You're not. I love their Hefeweizen.
I don't like it. It's too weedy. Almost like tastes like I'm drinking a giant glass of lemon bread.
I love lemon loaf. I don't know what you're talking about. How's this beer? Is it more of like a fruitcake versus a lemon bread?
No, it tastes like if you were to take your beer and the Hefeweizen from Widmer Brothers and it had a baby. It's literally what it tastes like. It's a little bitter, but it tastes like their Hefeweizen.
Interesting.
So, I'm going to go about 6.5 out of 10. Not my favorite.
Ooh,
I'm on a roll of not great beers right now, and I need to step up my game here. But
you too.
It's what you get when you've never had a beer before. So,
but speaking of stepping up your game, here's a message from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Acorn Hills Clothing Company. Sustainable clothing, biodegradable packaging, tree planted for every purchase, and a percentage of their sales donated to charities.
Yeah, and that's not even the best part. They give you these plantable clothing tags with every purchase. Pretty much greatest idea ever.
That is
scan
awesome.
the QR code right here for planting instructions. So make sure you go to www.acornhillsco.com and use Brews15. That is BREWS 15 at checkout, 15% off, and have your tree planted today.
Yes, don't forget to use our code Brews15 at checkout for 15% off. This is one you don't want to miss, guys. All right, man. So news broke late last week. Toni Kroos is coming out of retirement, going back to the German national team after 3 years of being away. What do you make of it, man?
Well, I'll tell you, the last 3 years for the German national team have been nothing but disappointment.
Poopy.
Like,
Straight
poopy.
poopy.
Very much so. So I can only imagine this will galvanize them at least a little bit. They have not impressed at all on the pitch. I think their only good result in the last 3 years was they beat France in a friendly.
Yeah, I mean they did terrible at the World Cup. They finished third in their group behind Spain and Japan.
Well, they also did terrible in the prior Euros. So it's not like they've had much success since he left, even with him there in the last Euros. So
yeah, even when he was there, like honestly, the only thing we remember is that free kick he scored. I think it was Marco Reus, just rolls it out a little bit. He's from that tight angle and just curls it into that upper corner. That's about the last thing I remember from Toni Kroos in the German national team.
Same here.
But yeah, even Germany just have not played the best. I mean, some of these friendlies, they lost 2-0 to Austria, lost 3-2 to Turkey, drew 2-2 to Mexico, beat the U.S., and beat France. Is this kind of Nagelsmann playing around? I mean, some of these games he wasn't there.
Yeah. Hansi Flick was, and I think he stepped down after the Turkey game, if I'm not mistaken.
And so they have been playing around with different lineups, playing 3 at the back 4. So he's messing around with this lineup and definitely with his personnel. But, man, this Germany has a plethora of talent,
They're
man.
stacked.
A plethora, yes.
I mean, if you just literally look at the midfield options that Nagelsmann now has, I mean, you got Toni Kroos, you got Ilkay Gundogan, Joshua Kimmich, Leon Goretzka, Florian Wirtz, Pascal Gross, Jamal Musiala, Kai Havertz, Julian Brandt, you got Andrich, Furyk, Hoffman, and Emre Can. Like, that in itself is a lot. And then don't forget, you got players like Serge Gnabry, Leroy Sané, Thomas Mueller, also there. So, I mean, that's like 4 midfield's worth of midfielders.
It is. And so, like, Nagelsmann, he has his work cut out for him, man, trying to figure out what the best lineup is with these players.
Yeah, and their last game against France, didn't Kai Havertz play like left back or something like that?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Something crazy. And he still got a goal? I don't get it.
And so with Nagelsmann's having this issue of picking a starting lineup for Germany, we're going to throw our hats in the ring and give who we would start. If we were the German national team coach, who this starting lineup would be. So give me yours first, man. Who do you got in goal?
Okay. So I'm going to go through everything because there's a whole system to this German national team. So I did a long look at it, and
it was
there's
hard.
Some interesting formations you could go with.
Tons of formations you could go with the players that you have. Tons
of possibilities. I mean, you got strikers that are in form right now, and I didn't start any of them. So,
I know, yeah.
In goal, I did Marc-Andre ter Stegen.
I don't like it.
Manuel Neuer's been unconvincing. I'm sorry.
Dude, are you kidding me? He comes up with amazing... He is keeping Bayern Munich in some of these games.
And ter Stegen keeps Barcelona in some games as well. So
he's been hurt quite a bit this season, I would say.
I know. And, honestly, again, flip a coin for whoever's healthy. You could start them. They're both world-class goalies.
They are. They are both class.
It's not going to really
If one's out, it doesn't really matter too much.
All right. And then my defense, I went with... I love the inverted fullback system so much.
Okay.
That I essentially did 3 center backs.
3 center backs. Who are your 3 center backs?
My center backs are Rudiger and Jonathan Tah.
Okay.
My 2. And then at right back, I did Nicholas Schlotterbeck.
Schlotterbeck.
He can play that. He can play that center back, right back role. And then I have Rom as my left back, who can play more into the midfield if need be.
Yep. David Rom.
And then around Toni Kroos in midfield.
So you are starting him, okay.
I have Joshua Kimmich because you can allow him to get a little more forward, and Kimmich can stay back to allow the freedom for Kroos to move around. I did an attacking mid of Jamal Musiala because, I mean, you can't not start him.
So is this kind of like a 4-2-3-1?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot like I mean, I hate to say it, it's a lot like Arsenal's formation because at striker, I do have Kai Havertz, so more of a box midfield to give them a little more.
So more of a false nine then.
False nine, yeah, because we all know how much Leroy Sané likes to get up the field and pinch in. And then I did Florian Wirtz at my right wing, so you have a lot more fluidity with that midfield in the front three because that's what they've been lacking in attack. But I mean, this would give you a bench of Füllkrug, Undev, Gundogan, Andrich, Thea, Gross, Goretzka, Anton, Brandt, Hoffman, Shan, Heinrichs, etc. Like, this is a stacked bench either way, and you could trade out literally any of these guys for any
And
of
so
these
who's your
players.
attacking midfielder in this formation?
Musiala.
Okay, duh. Yeah. So you have Musiala as that attacking mid and Wirtz are on the right.
Yeah. I mean, and it also allows them to be interchangeable, right? So they can both go in and out. Sané can play as more of a striker at times. Havertz can drop back in. Just makes everything interchangeable for all their pieces. And with the way all of them play, it makes sense. You could also use Serge Gnabry up top in that striker role. So that way him and Wirtz can kind of go back and forth as well.
So mine's a little different. Not a whole lot, but there's definitely some changes I would make in mine. So for me in goal, I had Manuel Neuer. For left back, I also went with Rom. My center backs, I had Antonio Rudiger. And man, I debated on this one for the other center back. Either Jonathan Tah or Anton, who's playing fantastic for Stuttgart. I ended up going with Jonathan Tah, just the way Leverkusen are playing. They're fantastic. Best defense in the league. And then I went with Joshua Kimmich at right back. I had to get him in my team, man. I had to. And so I think, again, he's going to be pushing up quite a bit, probably moving into that midfield. But that's where I would deploy Kimmich at. Because in my midfield, I went with Toni Kroos and Robert Andrich.
Yeah.
From Bayer Leverkusen.
So a lot of the same system, right? Where, you get more of a Kimmich coming into that inverted fullback role.
And I wanted a destroyer in that midfield. Because with Gundogan, Kroos, Kimmich, I don't see them really as, hard-nosed midfielders that will make that tough tackle. And I think
Andrich really is.
You get that with Andrich. He can protect that back line and allow Kroos to do his thing. Yeah. Allow Kimmich to come into that midfield. And then my attacking midfielder, so my formation is similar. It's kind of a 4-2-3-1. My attacking midfielder, Jamal Musiala. I also went with Florian Wirtz out on the right, Leroy Sané on the left. But I do have a striker that is not Kai Havertz. It is Dennis Undev.
I know, and I almost picked him because he's in such good form right now.
Such good form right now. The guy is on fire. He has 14 goals and 4 assists and 19 appearances in the Bundesliga. He's playing for Stuttgart, if you don't know.
Blows my mind. Only 19 appearances. He's got 18 goal involvements. That is an amazing return.
He has stepped up since Seru Girasai went off to Africa Cup of Nations. When he got injured, he has just been slotted in there like nothing changed.
Like butter.
But yeah, it's crazy seeing him do this for Stuttgart because you remember who he used to play for in the Premier League, Brighton, where it never really went off for him, but he's doing it in the Bundesliga.
Moments of brilliance, but a lot of times he was just there.
Exactly. And like you said, this bench, it still has Füllkrug, who you could slot in that striker role. Pascal Gross, I really wanted to get into this team.
He's in such good form as well.
He is.
He's in his life.
I mean, you still have Leon Goretzka, like you mentioned, Hoffman, who's been amazing for Leverkusen as well. Gnabry, Brandt. So lots of good players. But that's our German national team lineup. What do you guys think? Let us know what changes you would make, what players you would add, or
what systems you would apply
what
here.
System? What
there's
formation
a lot
would you use?
that Nagelsmann could do, yeah. I'm very interested to see what you guys have to say. Let us know. I'm very interested.
Yes, let us know on our YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing. All right, man, let's move on to some of the funnier side of things here in football that happened. MLS started last week.
Yeah,
And in the
it did.
opening game, Inter Miami, they took on Real Salt Lake. They won 2-0. But there was a hilarious passage of play where one of the Real Salt Lake defenders goes down injured. He's rolling on the ground. The ball comes to Messi, and Messi starts dribbling. And he dribbles at the player and just lifts the ball over this player rolling on the ground, rolls around him, runs around him, and gets his shot off. His shot gets blocked. But that whole sequence, man, had me dying.
Dude, I watched it probably 20, 30 times. It's just not only is it hilarious, but it's so hard to do running full speed to just deftly touch it so it barely goes over the guy on the ground.
It's hard.
Yeah.
That's not easy. Like, that's fucking hard to do, man. He goes around him, lifts it over him like a cone and just went around him. And then the player, he made a little statement about it, calling himself a cone, and hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, he was on the ground for a while, too. It wasn't like it had just happened.
No, I mean, the ref didn't blow the whistle to stop play. So, I mean, Messi had every right to keep playing. And I know I saw a lot of comments when I was watching these videos. You scroll through the comments. A lot of people were giving hate. Like, if this was Ronaldo, people would be hating on Ronaldo and all this. Versus Messi was like, okay, that was nasty, filthy. As in, that was sick. What skill? Do you think Ronaldo would get that hate if he did that in a game?
Only Ronaldo fans would say that Ronaldo would get hate for this because he wouldn't get any hate at all.
Not
People
for
would
me.
be calling him a genius, like an absolute genius, and they'd say, "Oh, if Messi did that, blah, blah, blah." Like, okay, whatever. No one cares. The GOAT debate is over. Let's move on. I think, honestly, if Ronaldo was put in the same situation, he just kicked the ball into the guy, trip over him, and act like he had just broken his leg.
Okay.
Like, honestly, I've seen Ronaldo do it many times. That's what he would do. Like, oh, I got a free kick. And then he'd probably score that too. Because he's in a garbage league and he's one of the greatest players of all time.
He's scoring a lot of goals in that garbage league.
Well, that's what happens when you put the greatest player of all time, one of, in a garbage league. As you can see with Messi scoring so many goals last season.
Speaking of garbage league, Ronaldo is getting some hate here from some El Nasir or Saudi Arabian officials.
Yeah.
In a recent game that they won 3-2 against Al-Shabaab. Shabab?
Shabab. Yeah.
They won 3-2, and apparently he's getting some hate for a gesture he made.
Yeah. So what happened is the fans for Al-Shabaab started chanting Lionel Messi's name. And Ronaldo apparently got angry at it. And he ran across the half celebrating his goal and went like this.
It kind of looked like a jerk-off motion, if I'm being honest. Like,
Yeah. And, I mean, yes, a lot of them are just, social media videos because obviously no one's watching, the Saudi Pro League. But
okay, well, that's not it at all. People are watching the Saudi Pro League, but it was not caught on cameras, you're right, because this was after the game. The cameras weren't rolling. And so this video's come out all from people on their phones. And they're saying he should be reprimanded. He should be punished for this gesture. What do you think? Should he?
I mean, if he was in the Premier League and made that gesture, would he get fined? No.
I don't think he would. I think it's very loosely kind of an inappropriate gesture. It kind of looks more like a fist bump or something, he does in that general area. I didn't think it was... When I saw the headline, I was like, oh, I got to find this video. What did he do? And then that was it. It was kind of a letdown, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. It's just a lot of disappointment there.
I was hoping for like a G-Generation X, like complete suck it,
No, just disappointment.
Get some hip action in there.
Exactly. But no, there was no Triple H and Shawn Michaels movement there. That was just your average English person having a wank. That's pretty much it.
A little bit more serious note, but speaking of having a wank, Dani Alves, man, is in trouble right now.
You were waiting for that.
I was not. It came to me just now. But this is a little bit
Speaking
more of a
of wank.
serious issue. Dani Alves has been sentenced to 4.5 years in prison after being found guilty of sexually assaulting a woman at a nightclub. And this looks like some serious stuff, man. I think this actually happened. I think he's guilty, and he should definitely be facing this punishment because he cannot get his story right. He has changed his story and went from not knowing this girl to knowing this girl to, we just kissed, to, it was just oral, to, it was, yep, we did it. And he said he did all this to save face with his wife, basically, because he's married doing these things.
Well, I mean, as all pros that have this happen to them, it's usually what happens. So,
and of course he said, it was consensual, but a lot of the reports, obviously the woman's report, witness reports are showing that is not the case, and he's in trouble. He's in
and
big
then
trouble.
he plays the final card he has, which he claims he was drunk, which is inebriation is the final
excuse
card you can play for a lapse of judgment that is this harsh. I agree with you. I think he should face the full time. I know Neymar has posted his bail and gave him his family lawyer for the appeal. It's not looking good. I mean, I feel like that's more of a last hurrah,
and this is like a statement sentencing to, let's be honest, he's one of the most decorated footballers in history.
I think Messi is one trophy ahead of him, but he is the second most decorated footballer in the history of the world.
Huge name, and for this to happen to him, and for just to be sentenced and for him to be found guilty, I think is huge news. Again, he deserves the punishment.
Yeah,
probably worse than what the punishment he's getting. Honestly, it sounds like when I was reading some of the reports, he'll probably be out in 2 years because he's paying the victim so much money. Blah blah blah. Rich people get off easy.
Yep. That's what happens when you got a lot of money. It's sad to see, but
it's good for this girl to come out and say this stuff again against someone who's very beloved in Barcelona, throughout Brazil. Because this trial took place in Barcelona. Such a high focus name. It's probably the wrong word, not high focus, but just a high profile name.
Yeah.
And for her to come out and stand up against him, so good for her. And we wish her all the best.
Yes, 100%. Now let's get into some happier news, but along the same lines.
A little funnier. Let's go with the funny stuff.
Let's get into the Premier League, shall we? Because 2 Sheffield United players started fighting on the pitch in the middle of the match in their 1-0 loss to Wolves.
Hilarious, man. They were playing... Honestly, I feel like Sheffield didn't play terribly, but they had just conceded. And it was Jack Robinson and Vinicius Souza. They kind of started out, they kind of came together with their heads, like they do in football. And then a little bit of pushing, shoving. One of their teammates had to come pull them apart. Not quite as bad as the Newcastle incident. No punches were thrown.
Yeah. But I think the funniest part of this whole thing is the ref considered sending them both off.
Yeah.
For violent conduct, which makes matters worse because they would have gone from just conceding a goal to going down to 9 men.
Honestly, this team, dude, they need like a PowerPoint presentation on composure after not only some of the misses in this game, the fights, and let's not forget Mason Holgate's terrible red card last week with that tackle.
To quote somebody I know, is garbage.
Garbage.
Garbage. Yeah, I mean, it pretty much just sums up Sheffield United as a team right now.
Pretty much. Bottom of the table.
Bottom of the league. Conceding goals left and right. Unfortunately for them, they play the team who has scored the most goals in the Premier League this season. And the most this calendar year, I should say.
Yep, they're
in
one
Arsenal next Monday. So it's not going to get any better.
Speaking of not getting any better.
I was going to segue to that because Arsenal have scored half as many goals in the month of February. The amount of goals they've scored is half as much as Man United has scored all season.
So yes,
to segue
we're talking about Manchester United.
They lost to Fulham at Old Trafford for the first time in 21 years. this team looked like the United we saw last calendar year, where they were just
2023.
awful.
Yeah, I mean, it's for 20 years. That was the last time Fulham won. So when we were watching that game, we we're just a baby.
Well,
and honestly, Fulham deserved to win this game.
We were in high school, but whatever.
Again, just a baby.
Still,
what
mentally,
it feels like now.
just a baby. Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, we had to put them in our good. We had to put them in our good category.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, and United just said, "Hold my beer and watch this." Came out to play against Fulham and just decided to not give a single fuck. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, they looked flat. Their midfield got absolutely dominated by Fulham.
Poor Kobe Mainu, man, was having to deal with all the old legs of Casemiro, who went off injured.
Yeah.
Christian Eriksen came in and did not look like he had any more legs in him.
No. And, they were without Rasmus Højlund in this match, who has been an inspiration for them. He's out 2 to 3 weeks with an injury. But, is he at this point more of an inspiration to them than their captain is in Bruno Fernandes?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Bruno looked like he didn't give a damn. Rashford didn't look like he gave a damn.
Did you see Bruno's antics in the second half when he took a shot from just outside the 18? His follow-through hit a Fulham player. He goes straight to the ground and rolls around, gets up, and then starts yelling at the referee for not calling a foul.
So I did see this.
Who does that?
So I did. That? So this is kind of going around the social media circuit where, he's running down. It's right outside Fulham's 18-yard box. And he kind of goes down injured, air quote, injured. But United kept the ball. Dalot has the ball on the right inside the 18-yard box. And Bruno cannot be bothered. He's still just rolling. Oh, I'm hurt. And then, he kind of gets up and looks like, oh, we still have the ball. And then he pops right back up and is, asking for the ball again.
Yeah.
Which, I mean... Yeah, it's, again, they can't be bothered. There was also a clip when they played Luton, Manchester United, where Ross Barkley basically just jogs past Marcus Rashford. It was the laziest piece of defense I've ever seen, where I think I don't want to play defense. I just kind of stopped chasing him, but he wasn't really chasing him. He was more walking in his general direction as Barkley just went by him. They can't be bothered, man. They don't care.
No.
I mean, at this point, is Rashford for sale? Could he be for sale this summer?
I mean, if I'm Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I would.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a player with more potential that has been more disappointing than Marcus Rashford?
This season? Maybe not.
I mean, you look at what he did last season.
Honestly, I could probably go to Chelsea and maybe find one, but...
We'll get to that later.
Yes, it'd be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, this is Manchester United. You would think players would want to fight for the badge. This is one of the greatest clubs in the history of the earth. And you got players who literally won't defend someone who's walking past them.
Yeah, I think things will start to change here, like you said, with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He's appointing new people, new CEO, new director of football. I think Ten Hag's days are coming to an end. I would be very surprised if he's there next season.
I mean, speaking of Ten Hag, we've heard him say a lot of things this season.
Yes. So yes, I have to quote him after the game. This Eric Ten Hagard, as I'm going to call him, was quoted, "After one defeat, you have to see the bigger picture, and the bigger picture looks very good." Ten Hag said that after the game when asked if things were going in the right direction under his management.
Well, I mean, if you consider that Sir Jim Ratcliffe got appointed, and he is starting to appoint world-class staff in important positions, yes.
Play on the field, though.
Play on the field, not at all.
I mean, this guy should be the manager of the International Space Station with these out there freaking comments, man. I picked the right beer, this Starburst, because it's just an outer space theme, man. What kind of comment is that? That makes zero sense.
Yeah, I don't get it. He hasn't made sense all season, though. I mean, he's been saying about getting the right players in all season, right? Well, he got some of his players that he wanted in, and yet Antony is still on the bench. He starts a 19-year-old in Amari Forson for his first appearance instead. He sends Palestri out on loan and then subs on Amad Diallo instead of Antony as well.
I think Antony came on for the last minute.
Yeah, and he literally, like, I saw him running around, but I don't think he touched the ball. So,
yeah, getting back, I guess, to that game, I know there was a situation in there where Harry Maguire had a stamp on a player, could have been red. Ref gave him a yellow. Was it a correct call for you?
It looked more accidental than anything. So, I mean, I've seen reds given for that as well. So,
Upamecano in the Champions League?
Yeah. And I'm going to go with Upa Maguire. Well,
as we're talking similar, about right? Harry Maguire.
But I mean, if we're going with Upa Maguire, then yeah, he should have been sent off. But no, I'm going to agree with the ref in this case.
Correct call for you? Yeah.
Yeah, he was close enough to the situation.
I agree.
I do. But with this loss and, the teams around United picking up a victory or at least some sort of points, are United effectively out of the top 4 race with this loss?
Top 4 potentially. We'll see.
They're 8 points behind Villa right now.
With the Champions League, England could get a 5th Champions League spot, so that makes it a little bit more accessible. But we'll find that out all later, because Italy could also get Serie A could get a 5th Champions League spot. So they better hope there's a 5th Champions League spot, because you're right. I don't see them getting 4th, especially after Villa won this past weekend.
And Tottenham has a game in hand, although it is against Chelsea. So we'll see how that pans out later. That could put them 6 points ahead of United. And I feel like, honestly, with the way they're playing, if Tottenham gets 6 points ahead of United, that's it. There's not enough games left where you think Tottenham's going to drop 6 extra points, United's going to pick up 6 extra points. I just don't see it happening. Although Villa, I saw recently, has the hardest schedule for the remaining Premier League season. So it does give them hope in that aspect.
Okay.
Because they still have to play Liverpool, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, Tottenham, and City. They've played Arsenal twice already. So, yeah. Should be interesting. Yeah. So, Fulham. Before we move on. Hilarious tweet.
Yes.
You see it?
This is right after the game they tweeted, so that's why they call it the Theater of Dreams.
Yeah.
That Fulham team, man, is so interesting. It's such a hodgepodge of almost rejected players from other clubs.
It is.
Burn Leno with Arsenal. You have
Alexander
Iwobi, who's bounced
Arsenal.
around. Yeah. Left Everton.
Pereira. Man United. How many times can we say the same player?
Yeah.
Timothy Castagna from Leicester City.
From Leicester.
So
Willian?
Keep going. Raul Jimenez. Wolves.
Willian, yeah.
Yeah, Willian.
So yeah, it's just a weird hodgepodge of players that.
Yeah. I want to say that Arsene Wenger, the mastermind behind all this, has done it again, selling Alex Iwobi to Fulham, but I think it was actually Unai Emery.
He sold him to that, and he went to Everton first there, bud.
Yeah, I know. Still, I wanted to say it. Okay, moving on. Everton has won their appeal against their 10-point deduction. Now it's only 6, bringing them up to 15th after their draw versus Brighton, which is massive for them, as Nottingham Forest are still waiting their fate, and Nottingham Forest is also in 17th, 4 points above the drop.
Yeah, so my poor Luton. They're in the relegation. They do have a game in hand, but they'll need to make up some points here to catch Forest.
They do. Luckily for them, they still have to play the entirety of the bottom of the table, except for Sheffield United. So, you have that going for them.
Woohoo!
Speaking of bottom of the table, Crystal Palace won 3-0 over Burnley in Oliver Glasner's first match in charge.
Huge
American
3
Chris
points for them.
Richards with the goal to kick it off.
Yeah, did you see his quote about his hilarious line about growing out his fro so he could head the ball?
So he could finally head the ball, and it feels good to be able to score. Yeah, I did see that. That was hilarious. Villa put 4 past Forest in a 4-2 win. West Ham with the same scoreline over Brentford finally get back to their winning ways. And then Manchester City scrapped to 3 points versus Bournemouth to keep pace with Liverpool. They made it 15 unbeaten coming into the 192nd Manchester Derby at the Etihad, and probably the hardest march of anybody's schedule as they go to Anfield after that, go to the Amex to play Brighton, and then play Arsenal to round out the month of March. How important is this month going to be for the title race?
Oh, huge, man. We could see some huge point swings as Man City face Liverpool and Arsenal. So the top 3 teams are playing each other here. So yeah, we could see some huge point swings depending on how these results go.
Yeah, and I mean, we also know that, away from home, Man City has been less convincing than at home. They struggle at Anfield, which would be a huge win for Liverpool if they get it. And then they go to the Amex, which has been a bugaboo place to play for them.
Yeah, they
Remember last year they lost
drew.
at the Amex, or drew
they
at
drew.
the end of the season.
Yeah,
drew. But Phil Foden with yet another goal. So I wanted to bring up a point, as I heard Rio Ferdinand say recently that he thinks Foden is world class, but Bukayo Saka isn't yet.
Did he say why?
Pretty sure I know your answer, but do you agree with him?
Did he say why he thinks that?
He just said because of the stats that Foden is putting up, how he plays in this Manchester City team, and how much his game has improved this season.
So I feel like if you're going to put Phil Foden as world class, then yeah, you do have to put Saka as world class. Now, whether you think that's up for debate. But I think if you have one there, you have to have the other. Stats wise, we can be stat merchants and say, yeah, Saka has better stats. If I'm going to argue for Phil Foden, it's okay. Let's look at the trophies and things he's won. But again, you have to look at his supporting cast there.
Yeah.
And so there are different factors that you can look at to support your claim of why one would be world class or versus the other. But I think if you got to put one there, you should put the other. I mean, you can look at even the England squad where Saka is starting. Phil Foden does not.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's
I feel like
little
that is
for something.
I think that right there says a lot. Although they play 2 completely different positions, but
they do.
The fact that Saka starts for England and Foden does not, I think, is indicative of this entire scenario. But I mean, just looking at the eye test, right? You got this Manchester City team, which is loaded with world-class talent, and Foden is still standing out amongst all of these world-class players. And you got Saka, who has players that could be, in certain circles, considered world-class, but probably not, except for Martin Odegaard, probably. Declan Rice, maybe. And the rest of them, you might think not quite world-class.
Versus like Kevin De Bruyne, Erling Haaland, Rodri,
Bernardo Silva.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, the fact that Foden is standing out so much is I'm going to try to be as neutral as possible in this discussion. I think it speaks a lot in volumes of where Foden has come from and where he is now. I agree with you. I think both of these players are world-class 100%. There should not be an either-or conversation with these 2 players. Bukayo Saka is, other than Mo Salah, who is considered one of the best players in the world, Mo Salah is there, and Bukayo Saka is literally right behind him in terms of not only stats, but as he is regarded in the football world.
And you think of Saka, man, he started out as a left back.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's insane. And the fact that he's only 22 and he's already hit 100 goal involvements. There's not many players who have done that. He's got 50 goals for Arsenal and over 50 assists. It's really difficult to really try to say that he's not world class. I think it's harder to make that argument than it is that he is.
But why don't you guys let us know? Is Foden, is Saka world class? Is one better? I mean, they play different positions, but let us know what you think. Would you put one as world class versus the other? Let us know on our socials. But all right, man, let's get to some of the big games we had this weekend. We had Arsenal hosting Newcastle at the Emirates. Probably one of the most convincing displays I've seen Arsenal play, especially in that first half. They kept Newcastle to zero shots in that first half. Goose
And
egg.
that's not just shots on goal. That's shots period.
Total. Yeah, shots total.
And I will say for a solid, I don't know, probably like 30 minutes of this first half, Newcastle, I don't even think they got out of their own half.
They struggled horribly with that. It was just long balls up the top, hoping for Isak to latch onto something, but they couldn't put 2-3 passes together at all. Yeah, it was just all Arsenal. They were dominant.
Yeah. I mean, without, the VAR disgrace of the first match, whatever, I mean, if that hadn't happened, I mean, Arsenal could be level on points with Liverpool, but whatever. Who cares? That's in the past. I do have a question for you, though.
Okay.
We saw Arsenal lose to Porto midweek with the lineup that they had scored, 5-0 against Burnley, 4-0 against West Ham. They switched it up to the same lineup they played against Liverpool. Is this their best starting lineup?
I think so, and I think this is the correct lineup for these Champions League games. In Champions League, you're going to face, it's a different competition than the Premier League. I liked how, I don't know if Kai Havertz is the answer for the false nine. Yes, he got his goal and he's playing well, but he also misses chances. He missed one very early in the second half where should have been an easy finish, and he did not score it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the answer, but I do like Declan and Jorginho and Odegaard in that midfield because it allows Declan to start that press sooner.
Yeah.
As far as going back to Havertz, what I did like is, yes, he offers a physical presence. He looks like he's trying more, attacking defensively. The guy's a giant. I mean, he's like 6'4", something like that. So it offers an aerial threat.
I mean, if he can put a header on target, that is.
If he could, yeah. Again, going back to his finishing.
Yeah, it really is. But what he gives up in finishing, he adds in midfield presence, right? That box midfield. Really, like you said, it allows them to press a lot better, and Declan Rice gets up the field more to be able to do that. But I think a lot of it has to do also with just the sheer passing range of Jorginho. Some of the balls he's playing over the top, it almost looks like he's just scooping it.
That beautiful one for the second goal.
Martinelli, yeah.
And that was also a difference. Martinelli, you notice, he was not hugging that sideline. He was coming inside.
Which allows, again, for more of an interchangeable front four with Odegaard as well.
I think that's what hurt them in that Porto game.
And I agree 100% because they were unable to break down that Porto defense. And Porto just looked like they're going to break on the, their left side, Arsenal's right, as Ben White was pushing in. But, I mean, Trossard and Jesus are both great options up front, but they don't seem to fit into that same system as well. I mean, Trossard, we've seen, has done it a couple of times. Jesus, not so much. I mean, with the effectiveness of this, do you go back to either one of them for the rest of the season?
Oh, no, not at all. I think it depends on who you're playing. This is going to be match dependent, whether you want Jesus or Havertz or Trossard up front. If you want to play a false nine, I think it depends on who you're playing.
Yeah. And then, matching up with how physical Newcastle is, they made Newcastle look like, just your average team. Yeah, I mean, that's what Newcastle were known for last season, was just beating up teams. Does it surprise you how different this Arsenal side is physically versus teams of years past?
Oh, it's a huge difference, man. I mean, when was the last time you thought of an Arsenal team as physical? You have to go back to early Arsene Wenger days.
Yeah, probably early days of the Premier League. Yeah.
I mean, they got some big boys. That defense, they're all center backs. And Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, Kivior, Declan Rice ain't no slouch. Nope. I mentioned Kai Havertz. He's 6'4". He's a giant, man.
Yeah. And I agree. It's been a very, very long time since we've seen an Arsenal side this physical. But I mean, just adding to that is how much better they have been at set pieces. I mean, they've scored an amazing 19 goals so far this season, not including penalties off set pieces.
That's the most in the Premier League.
Yeah. Why are they so much better?
Well, I think a physical presence helps when you got that presence in the box. And then set piece coach, man, working on it on the off season. I know that was a big reference there for Mikel Arteta to get a set piece coach in, and because set pieces are important. I mean, we've seen teams win the Euros, World Cups off of set pieces. I mean, this is how you can win some big games just off of one set piece.
And speaking of that, we'll get to that a little bit later about the Carabao Cup final. But with Arsenal looking this convincing, City just scraping through for some of their victories, we've seen Liverpool absolutely dominate games as well. I mean, which team would you give the advantage to in this title race? I mean, like, who's the best, most impressive, most dominant? They all look really good. Liverpool obviously are top of the league, but I mean, 2 points separate all three teams in the closest title race I can possibly remember.
Who has the advantage? I don't know, man. I mean, here's what I'll say. So they all look really good. We're just kind of waiting for one to break, to slip up. You know, March seems like it's going to be a pretty important month with all those top three teams playing one another, or at least most of them playing one another. I mean, you think of Liverpool. Honestly, they look the most threatening. They're in first. But they got some injuries piling up.
Yeah.
Diogo Jota, Darwin Nunez, Mo Salah, Dominic Szoboszlai, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Alisson, Curtis Jones, Gravenberch went down injured in the Carabao Cup. So they got...
There's some big names.
That's a lot of... And so if all those players stay injured and they can't get a lot of them back, yeah, I don't think they win this title. They need those players. And then moving on, to Man City. It's Man City, man. They're probably the best team with the best players. But defensively, the way they play, they leave themselves open. Because they push a lot of players up. John Stones comes out of that defense pushing up, and they've been shown to concede goals.
Yeah.
And, they're scraping by with these wins. They got that 1-0 against Bournemouth. So they're not winning super convincingly. I mean, Bournemouth had chances. The game before that was a 1-0 over Brentford. Game before that was a 1-1 against Chelsea. And so it'll make for an interesting Manchester derby coming up here. And then you got Arsenal. So right now, they're probably playing the best football. I mean, let's be honest. That first half against Newcastle that is how the modern game should be played. I mean, when you think about it. The pressing, the winning the ball back, the movement. Just
sheerly suffocating a team, and then it affects the rest of the game because those players get tired. As you keep that intensity, more mistakes happen, as in they scored 4 goals.
But at the same time, they're also the furthest behind on points. They're in third. And we'll see how this team can do under pressure. There's probably less pressure on them now that there's other teams in the race. They're not in first. They're chasing. But we've seen this Arsenal team crumble with injuries, especially. So again, if some of their players down that spine get injured, they could slip away.
Yeah. I will say, like, to add on to that point, I think Arsenal being in third and not having the spotlight and the pressure on them has benefited them more than it has any of these other teams. Because, I mean, Manchester City, we know they can deal with the pressure. Liverpool, we know they can deal with the pressure. Arsenal are kind of, sitting in the back seat, just biding their time, waiting for someone to slip up.
I also think with this being Klopp's last season, there's a little extra motivation there.
Yeah.
A little extra fight.
And with it being Klopp's last season, let's get into the Carabao Cup final, shall we?
Let's do it.
As we got Chelsea playing Liverpool, and, in regular time, this didn't surprise anyone. It ended 0-0.
It did.
But then Liverpool got an extra time header from a set piece, weird, like we just mentioned, from Virgil van Dijk for the win. However, during regular time, Virgil van Dijk did have a goal ruled out from VAR. Endo was offsides, kind of stopped Levi Colwill from marking Van Dijk. Was it the correct call for you?
Letter of the law, yeah. Stopped him from marking his man. He made an impact on the play. He was offside.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of comments and a lot of analysis after this match where some people don't understand why this was called offsides. Read the rules, I guess. Chelsea didn't play terribly in this match, and I'll be honest, they kind of looked like they were going to win it during normal time.
So I'll be honest with you, man. I didn't start this game. I forgot all about it.
Yeah.
I really did. I started it in the 70th minute. The last 10 minutes of that game, I thought Chelsea were going to score. They had so many chances. Conor Gallagher should have put a couple away, and they couldn't score, man. I mean, it's the story of Chelsea. They can't score. It helps Liverpool's goalkeeper, their backup. I'm not even trying to pronounce his first name. Yeah, Kelleher. Try to pronounce his first name. Okay.
Yeah,
The guy came out with some fantastic saves.
Yeah, that one right at the end, I think that was Chelsea's goalie.
Petrovic had a good one at the end too. Yeah.
Yeah, the double save from point blank range. Was
with his foot.
Yeah, that was amazing. But yeah, Kelleher had some fantastic saves in this one, and I think honestly, like you said, I think that was the only reason that they were in this match.
Yeah, I mean, this was also about Klopp's kids and coming into extra time because Chelsea just fell away in extra time. Yeah. I don't know what happened. They just hit a wall or something. Couldn't do nothing.
I'll tell you what happened. Pochettino happened. His substitutions, none of them were positive, and none of them
they're
worked.
All terrible.
Put in Nkunku as a striker. Chalobah we know everybody and their mother knows that doesn't work because he's not a natural striker. Puts in Trevor Chalobah for...
It was Chilwell.
Yeah. And then you see him in extra time right before it starts. He's talking to Chalobah. You would think from a coach where you want to attack the game, it's a final. You want to win it. You would be talking to your attacking players, not your defenders.
I think they wanted PKs, man. That's what it looked like they were playing for. If I'm being honest,
it did look like that. But when has that ever worked?
Sometimes it works.
It never does.
I will say, though, did this game feel more than a Carabao Cup final? Like, it almost had FA Cup final vibes with the crowd, the atmosphere.
It did. It was fantastic.
What this means for both teams. Like, I mean, Klopp's final games, this was fantastic for him. Chelsea, the way they're playing, this would have been huge for them to win a trophy.
It would have. I mean, it makes it 6 finals in a row that Chelsea have lost.
Most. They set a record, yeah.
Yeah.
It was held by Middlesbrough, who will gladly hand it off to you, Chelsea.
Pochettino said that this Chelsea team was tired, but Liverpool put in teenagers, which is half of Chelsea's squad.
Why is Chelsea tired? They're not playing in Europe.
No, they play 1 game a week, and Liverpool's teenagers took them to school. I don't get it. Is this a Pochettino problem, a player problem? Or is this literally, like, again, we've said it in many episodes prior, is this, you can take the man out of Spurs, but you can't take the Spurs out of the man?
Yeah, I think it's a Poch problem, man. If I'm going to be honest with you. I did not like his comments he said after the game, them going for the penalties, they're tired. Again, I do not like those excuses. Those excuses seep into the players. Versus Klopp, who sent out a bunch of youngsters, teenagers, who had to get to bed early for school the next day. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and a lot of them couldn't even go to the celebrations afterwards. Which is terrible, right? Like, they're teenagers. You can't go to a bar.
Oh, I guess. But I doubt players go to bars afterwards, man, as professionals.
Or at least any scenario where there's drinking.
It was past their bedtime. Let's just say that.
Well, let's go with that. But I mean, this is literally the story of you got Chelsea who want to be Liverpool and a Liverpool side who don't ever want to be. I mean, at one point they wanted to be where Chelsea was, but now, I mean, it literally flip-flopped. I mean, Jose Mourinho said a bunch of years ago is if you have a bunch of kids and, you don't berate them for losing and you don't celebrate wins, it becomes a culture in a club, and a big club becomes not a big club anymore. Is this the case of Chelsea? I mean, before Roman Abramovich, they were a mid-table club.
And that's where they've been at since.
Yeah. I know that Phil Neville or Gary Neville said $1 billion bottle jobs, but
I think that's harsh.
I think that's harsh. I think
Yeah.
it's more probably $1 billion squad with $100 manager. I think is probably a bigger problem for them. So, what do you guys think? Is Pochettino the right manager for them? Let us know on our socials: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Let us know down in the comments.
I want to hit real quick. We'll go real quick through this game. Bayern Munich hosted RB Leipzig. They won 2-1. Bayern did not look good in this first half. Honestly, it was a boring first half. It took 2 goals from Harry Kane, and it was a last-minute winner type situation. But I wanted to highlight, man, how much I love watching Navi Simons, Dani Olmo, this Luis Openda,
Benjamin Sesko.
yes.
Yeah, all these young guys at Leipzig. God, they do it again and again and again. Just unearth these gems, and it's so fun to watch.
But Harry Kane, we got to talk about him, man. I mean, he's keeping Bayern in it. 27 goals in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, I mean, 2 in the match, but I mean, he's giving Bayern moments of brilliance, but it's just moments. It's not full games. Is it enough to get them back into the title race?
Well, I think as a striker, do you really control a full game? No, it's as a striker, you kind of hold on to those moments to put your chances away.
Well, even that being said, he had a couple of chances in the first half, and he did absolutely nothing with them.
He put 2, especially the second goal was a nice one that he put away.
Yeah, I will say that. I mean, at the end of the day, he did what was needed of him, right? He's doing his job. But you would think that he would be able to put the game away a little bit quicker. That's all I'm saying.
Got to give credit to Leipzig for that one, I think.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on then to one of the biggest
saga
players.
the saga that never ends. This is the longest transfer saga. Will he? Won't he? Will he? Won't he? He's going to. To be honest with you, I know it's been rumored, and there's been a lot of people that have said, Fabrizio Romano has said that Kylian Mbappe at the end of the season is going to sign a 5-year deal with Real Madrid. I won't believe a single sentence of that until I see him with the jersey on, because this has been said before, and he did a 360 and stayed with PSG.
What number is he taking?
I honestly, I don't know, right? But let's get into this and the potential that it could be. So Kylian Mbappe, 5-year contract, 225 million euro contract,
What?
150 million euro signing bonus to be spread over the length of his 5-year contract. That's 375 million total.
What?
Yeah. Even though it's a free transfer, this is could be the most expensive signing in Real Madrid history. Blowing the Cristiano Ronaldo deal, the Gareth Bale deal out of the water.
That's crazy.
The Jude Bellingham deal out of the water. I mean, let's start with the history, right? Are you surprised that they went back in for him after he did the 180?
A little bit.
Years ago?
I kind of felt like they should have gone for someone else. I mean, there's a plethora of other strikers out there, and young strikers, which that seems to be the way Real Madrid are going, is getting this kind of hot young talent. Think of Camavinga, Vinicius, Vinny, Rodrigo,
Endrick,
Tchouaméni, yeah, Endrick. I mean, they got Endrick coming up who could play that striker role. But I mean, honestly, I thought about, obviously my first thought, I did a TikTok video on this one, was Julian Alvarez, Victor Osimhen, Ilie Wahi, Victor Boniface, Santi Jimenez. Yeah,
and then I could even throw a couple other names in the mix. Gabriel Jesus, Lautaro Martinez, Alexander Isak.
I think, would be a great option, yeah.
Isak is still in that same category. I think he's only 23, 24. For much less.
Oh, you wouldn't have to pay them, no. Would you say 200 and something million?
225 million euros over 5 years.
That's nuts.
But I mean, with the new regulations, Barcelona now can only spend, I think it's have a net spend of 205 million over the span of a year, and it's 3.5 times more for Real Madrid. It's 700 something million.
Yeah, I saw that because of all the stuff they've sold off.
Yeah, I mean, is this side going to be the new Galacticos where they just win everything in Spain
It
for a
looks
long
like
time?
it, man. It looks like it. I mean, they're running away with La Liga right now. They're 6 points ahead of second place in Girona. I mean, they're 8 points ahead of third place Barca. So yes, I do think with Real Madrid, with Kylian Mbappe going to Real Madrid, this is a Galacticos era time for them.
I mean, and not to mention Galacticos time for them. You think of the ages of these players they have. I mean,
Oh
you
my
got
God,
Mbappe,
they're all young, man.
who's 25, right?
Early
Let's
to
go
mid
through the
20s.
list. You got Vinny Jr., who's 23. I thought he was much older than that.
Oh no, man, he's young.
Rodrigo, same age. Jude Bellingham, 20. Eduardo Camavinga, 21. Valverde, 25.
Oh, the
Tchouaméni,
old man at 25.
24. Ada Güler, who looks like a phenomenal talent at 18. Brahim Diaz, 24. Endrick, who's 17. And you know who's the newest player to apparently have agreed to a contract with Real Madrid?
Oh, I do know. Don't tell me. Alphonso Davies.
Who is 23 years old. That is 11 players.
Good counting there, bud. Took you a second.
That is 11 players who are under, or 25 or under, that are all, most of them are considered world-class talents. That is an insane lineup.
Or the potential to be world-class talents.
Yes. I mean, all of them have the potential to be world-class, but I mean, most of them you would say probably are.
I would say Vinny Jr.
insane.
For sure, yeah. Bellingham, yeah. That's
absolutely
nuts.
Insane. But, I mean, I hope this rumor is true. Because, I mean, the two other teams, Liverpool and Arsenal, that were linked to them, I think he would have completely disrupted the entire harmony of both squads. Although both teams would take him in a heartbeat.
How do you pay him?
Yeah, exactly. And neither one wanted to break their wage structure, so I guess that's why. But if this is true, thank God this transfer saga is finally over, as is this episode.
That's right. That brings us to the end of this episode. Make sure you guys are following us on our YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Like and comment, guys. Let us know your thoughts. Should Kylian Mbappe have gone to Real Madrid, or should Real Madrid have gone after someone else? Let us know.
3-4 other players.
But on that note, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you guys as always.